Guys, have I been muted this entire time? I have been, haven't I? Okay. Right on, writers, and welcome first-time viewers to the Books by Adrian Author platform and our flagship show, Livestream Sunday. If you are new, my name is Adrian Santiago, and I'll be your host today and every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same channel. We have 5 more episodes scheduled for Season 3 of Livestream Sunday after today. I'm so glad that you're here for Episode 11 of Season 3. Happy Halloween. Sorry that I was muted like an idiot before. I hope you guys can hear me now because for some reason I can't hear me, and usually I can. You guys will let me know in a minute, I guess. Comment down below telling us about your favorite short story anthology or your favorite Halloween read every year. Today's episode will feature 3 short segments totaling out to a 1-hour runtime. We'll take some questions from the chat in the 3rd segment. Throughout the show, please label any questions for our guest with a big Q so I can easily find them in the chat when the time comes. Enough of the business, let's get into it. Our guest today is a chemist, an educator, a professional editor, and when she's not napping on the beach or playing in a river, she's reigning supreme as queen of flash fiction on AuthorTube as one of the Twisted 10. She contributed stories to A Season of Darkness, and she's also published a short story collection herself called Scribbles Scrawls. Her debut full-length novel, Tracker, releases in November. Please help me welcome back to the show, Miss Bethany Votaw.
Hi.
Welcome, the ghost of Bethany Votaw.
Okay. That was my costume debut. Hope that was enough.
I couldn't breathe behind that mask. I had to lose it right away. Yeah. So happy Halloween, everybody. That's all you get.
That was that. Hey, we did our due diligence.
That was that. All right. Welcome, Bethany. Please tell the people watching at home a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Bethany Votaw, and I started on AuthorTube like a year and a half ago just to hang out and find my people. I have been publishing short stories for a while through magazines and other online forums, and I decided to get a group together and do it with A Season of Darkness and then publish my own. And yeah, I write a lot of horror, flash fiction, and short stories, as well as thrillers and mysteries. So more to come.
All right. Like a pro. Welcome back. You were here for Season 1 a long time ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And we've been on shows together since then, but you haven't been on my channel back since then. So I'm very glad that you're back. I'm really excited to talk to you today about all 3 of your books. Hello. Last time that you were here, you did not have a book out, and now you have 3.
Yeah.
What's up, Bethany? Making
Crazy.
moves, yo.
Yeah, one of them doesn't totally count because it was with people, but hey, it's out there.
It counts 100%. How dare you? No, don't even try that nonsense. It sure does count. All right, so we've already got lots of love in the comments. Richard is here. Colin is here because Colin is the man.
Colin is the dude.
The Brits are always first.
They are.
And
yeah, so Victoria's here. Victoria released a book today. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, really? Congratulations, Victoria. I was not aware. I need to hop on that.
Third book in her series.
Our previous guest, Natasha, is here. Hello, welcome. See, that's how I get you guys. I bring you on the show, and then I rope you, and I'm like, it's good, right? Subscribe. Now they're back for more. I love it. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Miss Bethany Votaw. We're going to go right into the interview. So. All right.
So fancy.
I do what I do. Looking back on your time so far with AuthorTube, what has surprised you the most about this little corner of the internet and your part in it?
It is so nice. Everyone here is so nice. So I started AuthorTube, I don't know, a while ago because my husband was in the middle of his clinical. So we were just traveling around the country and like we'd be in one place for 3 months and like I didn't know anybody. So I was like, I should make some friends online. That's the rational thing, right? And I initially started AuthorTube just to like meet other authors, get some beta readers, because I didn't need clients. That's not why I was there. I was already editing at that point. And I've met a great core group of people. Who would have thought through YouTube that was where I would meet everyone?
Yeah, there are actually nice people on the internet. Who knew?
I know, what a concept.
Bananas.
I know. So yeah, that's probably been the most surprising thing.
All right. I'm listening to you while I'm typing in the chat here at the same time. So in addition to joining the community of AuthorTube, one strives to carve out their own little piece of it, as I do with all these ridiculous animations that like one-time use. And then anyway, you certainly have done this along with many of your cohorts from the Twisted 10. Where do you see your online community going next? Specifically, Bethany Votaw's online community going next?
I don't know. I've really carved out the niche of like flash fiction and short stories, even though that's not what I exclusively write. That's one of the things that has helped me improve so much as a writer and as like a reader and whatnot. So I really want to spread the joy of that. And I feel like I have enough experience and enough work that I can stand on to be like, hey, like I know what I'm talking about and I'd like to help you elevate your short stuff. So I think that's kind of where I'll dig in. Although in the next year, I do have some longer stuff coming, but I think flash fiction and short stories will reign supreme on my channel. I want that to be a place where people can go to for help and inspiration.
It's always nice to sort of be at least considered an authority on something that you love, right? Like when it works out, we're like, oh yeah, like I'm actually good at this and I like doing it, and you like me doing it.
Yeah, because I'm
Okay.
an editor. And so I think some people think that I just have like this authority, but I'm not a developmental editor. I'm a line editor. I'm a like copy editor. And it's so broad and big, especially with so many genres. And so I used to make videos about like, oh, editing tips, but it was like, it was too much. And I didn't have enough experience to feel like I was giving the best advice. But now with like short stuff where it's like, okay, I've been published with magazines several times over. I've created my own collection. It's gotten good feedback. I feel like I can narrow down some of the advice and feel confident in giving it. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. So then, having put out 2 short story anthologies, or at least been a part of 2, being a part of the second one, what did you learn from the first that you went ahead and did differently in the second one?
So A Season of Darkness is an anthology, meaning it's by multiple authors that create the book. Scribbles and Scrawls is a collection, meaning it's just me. So the reason A Season of Darkness came to be is I have a Discord channel. Everyone's free to join, but we were just talking about how like some people are going to not be published for years because they're writing these giant fantasy series, and it takes a while, and it's hard and it's difficult. And so we just wanted to get experience out there and let people kind of get a taste of what was to come. So we decided, let's create an anthology. Our theme was just kind of dark, spooky, and 10 of us, myself included, submitted some pieces, and we edited it all together and created a story of 16, I think, 16 stories, 17 stories. And it's an eclectic mix. So this is one thing that you can pick up, and like I have 2 stories in here, and I think Hannah has one, and Victoria has 1 or 2. And so that's what we did for that. And it was easy in some ways because I only had to write 2 stories, but I had to give feedback on all of them. But this one was harder because it was just me.
Yeah. Who spearheaded like most of the publishing side of things for Season of Darkness?
I did a lot of
That's
the
what I
editing.
figured.
Yeah. So I was a lot of the behind the scenes with that, but Hannah Palmer did the marketing for us, and Emily Oliveri, she did the cover. So I mean, everyone had a piece to play, but I was the one that was really figuring out the order, because the order in which you have stories really does, it's a story in itself, and
it flows it's the flow of the book, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that was a really great experience, and it was difficult in some ways because all of our voices were so different, whereas all of this like all of this book sounded just like me because it was all me. So that created its own different challenges. But I think the Season of Darkness, doing this with a bunch of friends as our first like actual debut, was interesting because we all got to celebrate being like, we finally have like something tangible out in the world. Gave me the experience of like dealing with the back end of publishing and all of that stuff. But yeah,
Good
so two very
preparation for your
different
own book, though.
experiences. Yeah,
for sure. What did you learn about yourself in the process of writing these stories for your Scribbles and Scrawls collection?
Scribbles and Scrawls took me by surprise because I wasn't like really planning on this, but I had so many stories. Remember, it was over like December of 2019, and I was like looking at a few magazines that I wanted to submit to. And I was like, there were a couple of short stories that I had that I was like, man, I really like this. And what happens is when you submit it to a magazine and they publish it, you lose the rights for a period of time. Like you can't republish it for 6 months usually. And so I don't know why, but I was like kind of bummed by that. And I realized I was bummed because I wanted other people to read it. So then I kept looking through my backlist of short stories and found a bunch that were cohesive enough to put together. And I think the one thing that I learned is, despite like the like dark nature, everything that I want to do with the short stories is I want to make my readers feel something. And that's been like a very big guiding force in my short fiction. So that was kind of like a epiphany for me.
Nice. Like you, like almost like an emotional core to each story that you want, the reader to experience.
Yeah, like it's fun to make
Beautiful.
people like unsettled and scary, but I think it was Kent Shawn that he helped me come up with the title, because titles are hard, but he wanted to initially, he's like, you should call it like What Lies Beneath, or Beneath the Surface, because underneath these like scary stories about like the boogeyman coming to get you, there is like a very real, true fear underneath that a lot of people can relate to and empathize with. And so even though this is like horror, I call it like loose horror because it's not like super graphic, it's not super like bloody, but it's just, it makes people uncomfortable. And I think I enjoy that power of like making people feel strange.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I haven't gotten to the point where I've sent my whole book to beta readers, so I don't know yet how people are going to take my epilogue, but I have a very like keen eye on that chapter. I want as much feedback from people as possible because there's something very specific that I'm trying to do with that chapter, a very specific effect that I'm trying to have on the reader. And if I'm not achieving that, then I need to work on it more, because I think that I am, and I'm excited about it. Like, we'll see, right?
Yeah, I know. It's always the beta readers and readers that'll like be
Critique
honest
partners.
with you.
Yeah. Because
Like, it
I
sounds
don't
good in my head. We'll see what my readers think.
exactly, yeah. And again, since it's a specific effect I'm trying to have, I just want to see what they'll say like on their own. I don't want to like lead them like with, did you feel this? Like, no,
How
like
did you feel?
yeah, like I just want to see if it really did like do the trick that I look, we'll see. What did you learn about the publishing of these books? Like, what was the big takeaway publishing wise with both collections there?
For both books, like with the group, so like with the Twisted 10, the Season of Darkness, everything was very like democratic. We're like, what do we want to do? Put it up to a vote if there were any issues, but they weren't. So we decided that we were just going to go wide, just to make it so, because we had so many people from across the pond and across the country and whatnot, that we were like, let's just have it wide so people that don't have access to Kindle Unlimited, depending on where they're at in the world. So by going wide means it's available on Apple and Amazon and Nook and Barnes and Noble and like literally anywhere. And so I decided to do that with Scribbles and Scrawls, Scribbles and Scrawls as well. So it was just a lot of back end stuff. And I think the one thing that I learned, especially with A Season of Darkness, was how complicated creating the perfect cover was, because I didn't have to do any of the creation of it. Yeah. Emily did it all. But I had to upload it, and there were so many issues with like uploading it, and then like we would add or
For the
subtract a
formatting
story.
it. Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
like such a pain in the butt. And so it was like one thing that I knew with Scribbles and Scrawls. I was like, I do not have the artistic brain, patience, or talent to deal with it. So that was one thing where I was like, I am hiring someone for that, and I will
Mhm.
gladly fork out money so I don't have to do it.
That's
Yeah.
a really like ultimately a good piece of advice to like almost have this trial run where you see where your weaknesses are in the publishing game and then just hire people to take care of that part, so
Hmm.
that you can have a
Yeah.
more successful I like that.
Yeah. And it's just like knowing what you can and can't do. Like I formatted both of them because I could and I knew what to do. But like if someone were to say you have to create your own cover, I don't think I could. Like I
Yeah.
just don't think I could.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't trust myself artistically enough to do it either. I always have a good, like image in my head, but if I ever want somebody to do a piece of art for me for any reason, I tell them what's in my head and then I tell them now interpret that your way. Like don't try to do what I want. Like give me
Yeah.
something, Yeah.
Yeah, and Emily did a great job with this because we were like, okay, what category in Amazon are we going to put this? And so we did some research, and then we're like, okay, we have
Smart.
very widespread stories. We had some sci-fi, we had some like real life, almost contemporary melancholy. Like we were spread out. So we're like, how do we create something cohesive? And we're like, we don't need any fancy images. We just need like a color scheme that worked, which Emily created. And then we have like little flecks of, you know, blood and snow and like these beautiful hand drawn oak leaves because there's some motifs with trees. I would
Mm,
not have thought to put that all together. It's just not the way my brain works. So like either find people in your life that can do
yeah.
that or help you, or just be prepared to just spend some money on that because there's some
Yeah.
things that you can skip on, especially if you're doing it all yourself. Like you can do the formatting, you can get some help with that, you can learn how to do that on YouTube, but you can't really like learn how to become an artist
Yeah.
overnight. It's a learned
And
skill.
for a lot of us putting out these books we consider them our babies and we talk about them like they're our babies. So I like to take opportunities like this to remind people that if you do hire somebody to do a thing for you, yes, it's important for you to get what you want out of them, but it's also important for you to give up control to an artist and let an artist do something artistic with
Yeah,
your
there's a
idea.
reason that they're an artist. You like
There's a
let
reason
them.
why you can't do it and you're hiring them. You've already, gotten to the point where you've admitted you need to hire somebody. Do not like regress that and try to like, micromanage it. Let them do their thing because boy, like they can really wow you if you give them the opportunity.
Yeah. So like with Scribbles and Scrawls, I went to an artist
Beautiful
and
cover. I love that cover.
I loved it. They were awesome. But the only information that I gave them was I was like, it's a collection of spooky stories. Here's a story or two if you want to get the general vibe. I want it to fit in with the other books. We were talking about this earlier. It's like I want it to
Mm,
fit in yet stand out at the same time, but I don't want it
yeah.
to stand out in a bad way. And so I told the artist, like, I love the idea of like using negative space. I think it's really
Mm,
creative and interesting. And they're like, yeah, that definitely works for other genres, not horror. And I was like, kind of bummed by it, but I looked through it and I was like, oh yeah, like that would be a little weird. And
mm,
so I gave him like a couple of themes that happened. Like you see birds appear in the book a lot. They're like, do you care what kind of bird? And he was like, no, just a bird. And then they created this, and it fits the whole theme and tone of the book perfectly. I could not have come up with this myself.
yeah.
Like,
And the red is like the perfect shade of red. It makes you think of like, Crimson Peak and all these other like really
yeah,
red horror, vampire stories, stuff like that. Just red, blood, red.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. So
I love it.
she did an awesome job, and I can give people links to her, and like I'm going to release the tracker cover. I could even do it today or tonight or sometime, and I used a different cover designer for that. And the reason why I used different cover designers was just because I wanted to see what was out there. Like I
Mm.
just wanted to see what other people could do. So I'm not married to any company or person. I just, yeah, it was a trial and error in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole like learning curve that the more you do it, the better you'll get at it,
Yeah.
right? We're going to talk about Tracker for a little bit before we move into the topic, but let's give a little love to the chat before we do that. Okay. Okay. All right. This is when I was muted, so they're letting me know that I was muted. Thank you guys for letting me know. I wasn't paying attention enough to see that. Richard, thank you. I washed my hair just for you, brother. Um, Scribbles and Scrawls was Votawesome.
Thanks, Richard.
Votawesome. Oh God. Howdy from Devin. Hello, Devin.
Devin's
Welcome.
here.
He said, "Oh sheet."
My cool costume.
Victoria has been looking forward to it. Bethany's saying hi to everybody. We already said hi to Natasha, but hello again. Where are the new stuff? Okay, so then we got questions that we're gonna get to later. I just want to make sure. Oh, here we go. What is this? Discomfort can be better than pure horror.
Yeah, that's power.
Like a crawling across the skin. That dark feeling comes across so well in Bethany's work. Who knew that you'd be the perfect guest for Halloween?
It worked out. Yeah.
Let's see. Natasha said something, and the chat keeps moving on me. I think people have become a little numb to pure horror. So going along the lines of psychological discomfort inducing horror is a good shout. And you know what? Like a lot of people confuse gore for horror. They think that that's what horror is, and it's not. And I don't enjoy movies that are just, gore fest. I like horror that like
We
we
need
said
that
gets under your
tension.
skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, I don't really like ghost stories a lot. Not because they scare me, but because of the opposite. They don't scare me. I'm not afraid of ghosts. They don't bother me. So like I don't get it. I'm not afraid of ghosts. What's a ghost gonna do to you? He can't even touch you. So it's like just one of those things where I can't like separate my brain from it. However, I watched The Haunting of Hill House and it blew my brain and it destroyed my heart. And
You know how that happens.
yeah, and I haven't been the same since. And so like there is good horror out there to be found. You know what I mean? Like that show is horror. That's what I think of as horror. That's a good point to Natasha. She volunteers as tribute to do some artwork for people if they need a heyo. And
That's a connection to have.
And judging by Natasha's icon there, you can see that she can back it up. Hello, Barrett is here.
Mr. Barrett's here.
We were talking about you in the green room, buddy. All good things. All good things. Hate to be late coming from another stream. It's all good, man. You're just spreading the love. I love that. I love that. And then the whole chat started loving on Barrett for a while because that's what happens.
Yeah, he just made 500 subscribers. Congrats.
Oh my God. Congrats, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome. We're doing well. Blah, blah. All right. So everybody's just saying hi. Okay, cool. So let's get back into it. So you've been working on Tracker for a long time. How long did it take from concept to publish?
All right, hear me out.
All right, hit me.
Hear me out.
It's okay.
Well, like this is like it's not even okay, I'll explain it. I started Tracker February of 2019. And it was.
That's not bad at all. I thought you worked on it for like 6 years or something.
Well, this is the part where that's just like, Bethany, why are you dumb? You'll understand. It was done. I finished it like middle of March, let it sit for a little bit, rewrote it because there were some issues, sent it to beta readers. Kent was an alpha reader, got the notes back, fixed it, did some hard edits, did my line edits, and then I had it sent to my editor, and it was done, complete, the end of November 2019. So you might be wondering, Bethany, why didn't you publish it in 2020?
Yeah, why?
Well, wait, are we in 2020?
We're in 2021. No, we're in 2021.
Yeah.
You okay?
I was just a chicken. Like
you were afraid to put it out?
Yeah.
That was it?
So
it's been done all this time?
It's been done. Yeah. The only work that I've done since then, I am writing a prequel to Tracker. And so I was just like going through it and like proofreading it and then making sure that my details lined up. And I think I put in like a couple of extra sentences to like refer to a prequel that I'm going to release for free. So yeah, it was literally just the fact that like Tracker was the first story, because I'd written books before, but this was the first story. Like even before I wrote it, when I was outlining it, I knew that it was going to get published. I knew that other people were going to read it, and it was I just put so much pressure on myself. So yeah, I've just been hanging on to it. And that's like the
Well,
sad thing is
what's
because
really
all of
funny
these
about it
people,
is there's way more people that are going to read it now than if you had put it out in 2019.
I
You're
guess,
Yeah, like you have an even bigger audience now.
yeah, like it's been done. Like
You're
that's what's
killing me. You're
crazy.
killing me because I can't
Uh,
wait to put my book out and it's nowhere near done. I can't imagine
it's
sitting on it for that long.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and
funny.
like that's pretty much what all of like my friends and family have been like
Like, what are you
they're
doing?
like I would like to, yes, I can see that now that after I've like published Scribbles and Season of Darkness and
But
it's
maybe that's
I've
what you
written books
needed.
since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I like got in my head with marketing because I was like, "Oh, I want to like fast release it. So I got to have my prequel that's going to be free for people and then I need book 2 and then book 3."
Mm.
And I have book 2 written and the prequel's almost done, but like it's not going to be fast released because I need to rewrite book 2 because there's some issues and like you can plan for the best, but it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. And but it's just like, yeah, it's been done for
Right on.
a while. Yeah.
That's
So it's
crazy.
finally happening. Because then I was like, oh, I'll release it at the beginning of this year. Um, and then it's snow themed, it's winter themed. So then I was like, oh, I'll do it in the winter. So I just pushed it back even more. And yeah, it's happening. It's November 27th is the release date. It is
November
happening.
27th. Pitch
Yeah.
tracker to us, please.
Tracker. Let me read the back.
There you go.
Detective Adam Reese has everything to prove and mistakes to fix. He enlists the help of a local search and rescue and an unlikely tracker to help him find a murderer who fled into the winter Montana wilderness. An old recluse, Clay, comes out of the forest when asked to be the tracker. Clay has his own secrets to hide, but reluctantly agrees to help the young detective. Will these two unlikely men work together to track a dangerous man through the fierce terrain and snow, or will their own secrets be their downfall? Dun, dun, dun.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, like, the even shorter one is a young detective desperate to fix his mistake, a recluse pulled from the woods, a murderer on the run. Like, that's like the simplest form. And the inspiration for this story is my husband and I did like a 10, 11-day trip on a river in Montana, just kayaking and paddling through it. I think it was like 70 miles through the summer and it was great. And it was like beautiful and like the river was powerful and everything was beautiful. And I was like, man, how awful would it be to be out here in the winter?
Yeah.
And thus the story was born. So
Isn't that funny how it's like, oh, this is so beautiful. I
yes.
would die if it was winter right
Yeah, I
now.
was like,
I would
"Oh,
die
this
out
is
here.
great." Like people use this for recreation, but like we literally passed a boat, like an aluminum boat that was just like crunched up. You could barely tell it was a boat. And a ranger at the end of the trip that we saw, we were like, "Hey, like that's up there." And like, "Oh yeah, some fool decided to go out in the winter and got wrapped around a log, and we didn't get to pull him out until spring," type thing. Like, I'm like, "This is a graveyard that we were just playing in." So like it that's just kind of how my mind works with
Halloween
things
special,
certain ways.
everybody.
So I was like, okay, like let's do this. So and it helped that when I wrote the first draft, we were in Wyoming and it was cold and it just was the perfect time. I just had to do it.
It's actually a really good story.
So yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. It's not even like, so this is my proof copy, but it's not that long. Originally it was closer to 55,000 words. So it's like a shorter full-length book, but I ended up cutting like 10K words. So it's like 38, almost 40,000 words. And I think that just goes back to the Bethany Votaw style of I am very blunt, punchy, short, concise. And that's something that I'm working on. I do want to create more dynamic stories that have, 3 storylines that are interesting and can hold the reader. But that's just been my own writing journey. I have grown doing it like literally flash fiction to short stories to longer short stories to novellas and now longer like full-length novels. That's just been how I've learned that is not the only way to do it. Don't try and do something that doesn't work for you. But yeah, so this is technically a novella, I think. It's like a 2-hour fast read. Oh, this is the cover. Hi.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh, hold
surprise.
on. Let
So
me give you the. No. Do it again. Do it again.
This is the cover. Yay. I'll post it on Instagram. Again, I've had this for a very long time. My cover designer's like, are you ever going to show people? Like, yeah, one day. Today's the day. So.
And you got the exclusive right here on Books by
Yes.
Adrian, y'all.
Yes,
that
yes.
deserves a like on the stream. That deserves a comment, a subscribe if you're not already. Don't let me catch you in my chat if you're not subscribed. I'll come get you. All right. Being that you are also an editor, did you hire also an editor for Track?
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
smart. Okay, tell us about that process.
It's like, you know, when you look at something for so long, you become numb to it. It's almost like, you know, if you're standing in the middle of a fish shop for 5 hours, all of a sudden it doesn't smell like fish anymore. I was looking at my stuff for so long, I couldn't see the errors and the issues. And my beta readers, go get beta readers, go get critique partners. They will save you so much time. I didn't have to go to a developmental editor because I knew that my beta readers fixed it. So I went to a friend that I knew through the editing community who is my copy editor. So she gets all of my stuff. Yeah, it's just what I need to do. Like, I'm sure I could do it, but I'm sure it would not be the best quality. And I know way more errors would slip in. And I don't hire a proofreader because I have a friend that is reading the audiobook. So he is like my final proofreader. He'll show me where I have any typos or errors and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing. I have a audiobook coming out for Scribbles, and hopefully the audiobook comes out around the same time for Tracker. But the way KDP and ACX works, it takes a while for them to approve it, and you don't really know the time that they approve it until it's done. So that's the little tangent for that.
That's always my sort of like question about my publishing process, because I might finish the book and have a date in mind, but I don't know how long the editors are going to take and how long my edit of that is going to take. And
so like with Scribbles, I had a ton of time because I didn't know. So I erred on the side of caution, and I gave myself way more time because like you can talk with your editor and they'll tell you like, okay, I'll get it back to you by this date. And then my editor, I can go through it again and then she'll go through it again type thing. And so I was like, okay, I knew that she was going to be done by this day. I'd probably need a week or two to go through it. But then I was like, life happens for everybody. So I added an extra 2 weeks for that. And then I knew I was going to get my cover back from my cover designer this day. But then life happens and I'd want someone to give me grace if I got stuck or something. So I added like another 2 weeks. And in the end, I had like 3 months, which was great. It was low stress and there wasn't a need for me to get it out on a specific time. So for all of you self-publishing, err on the side of caution and just give yourself extra time because you can like
be
way less
flexible
stress
with that. Yeah, for sure. Be a little, be like water, as Bruce Lee would say. To set the tone on my channel, I would like to point out Richard came in hot with his pineapple pizza. Not only I put him in his place, I told him that I'll ban him over that pineapple pizza stuff.
And he calls it aluminium.
He already tried that too. He already I ignored that. Right. I'm not going to play his games. And then he tries to smooth things over with the little smiley faces.
We're on to you.
We're on to you, dude. We know what you're doing.
Someone asked like what my catchphrase is, and a lot of times in my videos you'll see like it's fine, but if Richard's around, it's always get out. Richard, get out. The Discord, Richard is the pun king, and don't get me wrong, I love puns, but his are like a whole new level of awful, so it's just often like get out, Richard.
Like Votaw, that was I'm well aware of his skill levels.
Yeah. Oh, it's true. Who's to say is another one of mine in the chat. Yeah. Who's
Richard
to say?
Is so funny because he shows up and everybody's excited, and then he brings up pineapple pizza. And we're all like, get out.
Good old Richard. He was one of my first friends on this like strange little thing called YouTube. He was actually one of my beta readers too.
Nice.
For
Tracker.
Yeah. Nice. And he did you beta read Scribbles, Richard? I don't know. I can't remember. Richard reads a lot of my stuff. I read a lot of his. It gets lost in translation.
The perfect answer to that would be who's to say?
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Yes.
So I have so many more questions for you, but I also see so many questions in the chat and I want to give them ample time. So we're going to skip a little bit into our topic to make some time for the chat, and then I'll come back to my questions if we have time.
I'll try.
I have to remind everybody who's here, it's like a rap song, like you got to let them know who's on stage. All right. Uh, so today's topic of discussion is centered around the differences between writing your flash fiction, short stories, and your full length novels. I know that you just said that Tracker's a little on the shorter side. It might be considered a novella, still more than a flash fiction piece or a short story. So what was something in your writing process that you had to adjust when you were writing the more full length story as opposed to your flash fiction pieces that you do more often, it looks like?
I never plot my flash or short stories, like especially flash, like it is what it is. So I spent a lot of time like plotting Tracker and whatnot. And I think the main thing is having like your character and then showing their change. And you need that in every single story, whether it's flash, shorts, or full length. It just, you get to immerse your reader. So, like, the way I look at it is flash fiction and short stories are a moment in time. Like, you're giving that reader like a change, a spark. It's like looking at a highlight reel. Like, it makes you feel something, and that's fun and that's amazing. But a full length story, it's all about immersion. You need to like experience the story a little bit closer, and you need to draw your readers in. So it takes a little bit more time to figure that out. I think I answered your question the best I could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's supposed to organically roll anyway. Cause like, we're, for me, it's always the opposite adjustment where like, if I normally write longer stories. I can't start a project and think that I'm gonna finish it that night. It'll never happen. I can't write like flash fiction unless I'm on Kent's show and you guys are making me do it. But
Yes.
when I actually want to, I can't because I just start plotting stuff and I start creating worlds and religions, and like I just get lost in all the creation of it because I want to immerse. So like I want to do the bigger, longer stories.
So I
But
think
I know that it's a valuable muscle though to exercise these flash fiction stories. I want to do it more. Like, any advice on that?
So I always look at it like the 5 commandments of story. Like, you need to have like your character, you need to have like a change, you need to have a value shift. Like, you can look at it like hero's journey, 5 commandments, whatever. But all of that is the same whether you're doing a full-length novel or a piece of flash fiction.
Right.
The thing with flash and short stories is it's a feeling. So when you're writing it, look at it with that in mind. Like, how are you going to make your readers feel something? And when you're writing something longer, how are you going to make your readers forget the world that they're in? How do you make your readers live in your own world? And so you have to kind of look, like, take a step back, and like when you're writing and when you're planning on what you're going to write, keep those two things in mind, because I think that's what really separates it, because a story is a story. Like, a 5 paragraph story versus a 500-page story. They're both stories, but both of them have very different, they make their readers feel two different things. And one is a quick feeling, and then one is escape. And it seems like you have the, okay, I know how to make people forget real life. I know how to make people fall into a world. And I think that's something I struggle with, because as Richard pointed out, like, oh, he helped me find the plot with Tracker. That was one thing where I had very strong prose and wonderful extended metaphors, and it made my readers feel things. But that can only carry a story for so long. Like, I needed more substance to make readers completely fall into it. So they're different but the same. In the end, just make sure that your character has some sort of change and a value shift, and then everything else can build on that.
Yeah. It's funny because I almost look at it as I'm sure you've heard of the snowflake method or something like it, where you start with a core idea, a sentence that tells your entire story, and then you transform that into a paragraph, and you transform that into 5 paragraphs, one for each sentence in your original paragraph, and it keeps growing and leveling up, so to speak, and getting more detailed and more rich. And And so I always think of it as like different levels of that snowflake, where like you could tell the same, it's still a full story. You're just a few levels deep telling the short story version rather than many, many levels deep telling the novel version. You know what I mean? It still
So
has to
like
be a full story. Yeah.
yeah, like with Tracker, I could have done one of two things when I realized like some things are just kind of fluff and I need to cut. I needed to either add more to create what I had to give it more value and more stake in the story, or I needed to
Mm.
cut back because I had a lot of backstory and good information that emotionally made people connect with a side character. But I was like, this isn't his story. And so I ended up choosing to cut that in order to favor Clay and Adam, our main characters. I could have created some more tension and a subplot to make this side character's backstory and what I had created relevant, and it would have beefed up the story. But I chose not to do that because when I wrote the story, it was about Clay and Adam. And I really wanted that to be the main focus. And so that was just a
Yeah.
personal decision. And so I think if you're really looking on, I want to make a full length novel, I want to beef up the story, you definitely can, and there are ways to do that. And it just goes back to like, what do you want for your story? And I was like, I'm cooler with a shorter, punchier story as long as that means that my two main characters get the spotlight the whole time, because that's something that I really wanted. I don't have a reason for that other than I really just wanted them to be the star of the show.
Yeah.
Um, and
Well,
so
I had to cut out a couple characters and storylines and chapters to get my word count down on this behemoth that I decided to write. And it's the same thing. It was one of those things where it's like, well, they weren't essential in the first, but they shouldn't even have been there. If I could have cut them out all along and still had a full story, then they shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know what I mean? Like tell a
yeah,
tight story, tell a full story, but a tight one. Yeah.
yeah. That's kind of where I was at, where it was like, okay, like I can leave it in because it's interesting, but it doesn't actually change the story.
Hmm.
But if I had put in a
Doesn't
little bit
affect the
more work
outcome.
and changed some things, I could have created in this subplot that would have made it all worth it.
Mm.
And it would have been a bigger book, and people might have liked that more, but that's not why I wrote the book. I didn't write it for other people. I wrote it because the story between Clay and Adam was like the main focus, and I really didn't want to detract from that. So again, it all goes back to like, as you, the author of the story, what do you want? Because if I
Mm.
had wanted a full length, chunkier book, I could have made it happen. But I knew like, oh, I'm going to cut 10,000 words and it's going to be a shorter book. It's going to be a faster read. I don't know if it's going to market as well, but I know the story is just going to be better and I'm going to like it better. So that's what I did.
Dope. I love it.
Like,
All right.
you are the author. You get to decide.
Yeah, like
Just
people
don't
forget
write a
that.
boring story.
Write a good story. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, that should be the goal. Just write a good
Yeah.
story.
Make it interesting. If you get a reader to flip the next page, like that's a win. Some people think that authors they like overthink and really plan on how they're going to make their readers feel and like how they're going to change their perspective in life and change their life. And I mean, if you are changed by Tracker, if your life changes because of Tracker, like great. But I wrote this to be an interesting story. And if you turn the next page because you want to know what happens, that's a win. That is a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. You like how I just dropped that on you?
Yeah.
No warning.
Great. It seemed right.
It seemed right. What is your favorite spooky read, and why is it Nightmare Tenant by Richard Holiday?
Love that, Richard. Nightmare Tenant by Richard
Ah,
Holiday. It's great.
Richard.
Favorite spooky read? Season of Darkness. Love it. Actually, my spooky read, I don't actually think is published, but it's by Victoria Wren. She had me read a short story that she was thinking about putting in her own collection that's a companion to her series. She's like, I think this one's too dark. And I actually kind of, as a beta reader, I was like, you're a young adult. This one's really dark. But it was the diary. And if ever you get a chance to read it, if Victoria ever releases it, it is creepy and I loved it.
The Diary.
So I guess that's not very fair. Not everyone can read that yet.
Yeah, that's like deep cuts. How dare you? What's your favorite short story, flash fiction, experimental piece you've written?
I think it's going to have to be Quicksand, which I did on Kent and I do this thing called Don't Drink and Live, and it's a flash fiction,
Woo!
like do it. And it's quicksand. I think it's 5 lines. I think it's 5 sentences. And I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I liked it. It was probably the shortest piece that I've ever written, and one of the like most unsettling, I think. So, if you ever want to watch it, it's one of the Go Drinking Lives. I don't know which one it is, so you have to
I
go
don't
through and
think
watch
it's
it.
one that I'm on because I don't remember that one. So
Yeah, quicksand. I'm sure I could find it, but very very short. But
I'll
it
find
was
it,
one of
and when I
those.
do, I'll throw it in the
I
in the
didn't know if it was
description.
a risk, and I think it paid off, and I think that's why I love Flash, is because sometimes you take a risk and it pays off. Sometimes you take a risk and you just say, "Cool, move on."
Do you have a favorite character that you've created? If so, who and why?
Probably the Nightman from Scribbles and Scrawls.
The Night.
It's the Nightman. Yeah, he's probably one of my favorite like antagonists. Just a creepy thing. He's not really a devil, but he was like almost contracted and tricked by the devil to collect souls and hearts for the devil. And it's just a fun concept, especially when you get a ragtag group of boys who think that they can stop him.
I love it. Will you write another spooky collection or a brand new collection of short stories?
Yes. So my
Your
plan for
face says
20
you've already started.
Yes, my plan for 2022 is the first quarter I will have another collection out that is giving me a little bit of a headache. It's going to be more like, I'm not even going to say contemporary, but it's like a bittersweet, more family oriented, not, it's more like surrealism, not spooky, but I'm working on a collection that I will release fall, probably October of 2022. And that one I already decided it's going to be 4 longer short stories, and I've already got 2 of them pretty much done. So yes to both of those happening.
Nope.
And I don't want to be known as I only write short story collections. It's just when you have so many stories that you've already worked on and you're constantly writing new ones, it's not easy, but eventually you come to a point where you're like, oh, I have a handful of like magical realism, family bittersweet, painful yet funny stories that all kind of blend together. Put it out there. So
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
Yeah. Like every time you go into like an artist's house and they have paintings everywhere, and you're like, dude, like there's no furniture to sit on. You need to sell these paintings, man. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the paintings are sitting on the furniture that I want to sit on.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of short stories that I would like wanted to put either in Scribbles or in my that I wanted to put in Scribbles, but I couldn't because I didn't have the rights to it because they'd already been published in magazines. And so I legally couldn't, but now I have the rights back because it's been like that over 6 to 8 months, depending on the publication. So it'll be nice to like get those back in my name and put them out.
Beautiful. Are there any genres you wouldn't write in under your own name, imprints?
I think for Bethany Votaw, it's pretty much going to be like short fiction, and then I really love mystery thrillers. And I have several thriller mystery books that I will be able to write for a long time. So I don't see myself publishing anything under Bethany Votaw that isn't a short story collection or a mystery thriller. That's not to say that I won't in the future, but for the next few years, I have no plans to publish anything other than crime, thriller, and collections.
Cool. Are you planning to produce audio versions? Scribbles and Scrawls and Tracker.
Yep, Scribbles and Scrawls is literally just like in the ACX waiting room to be approved, and Tracker is being recorded as we speak by my audio guy, who is a friend of a friend. Honestly, just like kind of put feelers out there if you want. He's super affordable. He has experience, and I would have never known. Just nice. Put it out there. So yes.
Kind of along the same lines, but for Halloween, is there a genre that scares you to write in? Unsettles you?
I'm intimidated by fantasy. So like last year I wrote a full fantasy novel, like 80K words of just chaos, but it was a really great learning experience, and I'm not going to be worried about that or whatnot, but there's a story there. But fantasy is intimidating, so I think that's what I'm gonna say scares. I'm intimidated by fantasy.
Just like the density of it, like how much goes into
it's
writing
hard.
a fantasy,
It's a
like a good
whole
fantasy.
different way of tackling writing. Like I've never had to focus on so many moving pieces at once because like, okay, like this happens in our world. I do not have to describe what a river looks like. I don't have to describe like the functions of government. And I think people take that for granted because that's convenient and that's easy. Yes, I have to work on other complicated aspects of the genre, but it was a eye-opener when I had to come up with,
when you have to create an entirely original world, whether fantasy or otherwise, an entirely original world, you have to describe everything. Your job as a writer becomes like creating that entire world.
So many moving parts. And so I realized like writing that fantasy, I was like, okay, I got like half the puzzle pieces that I needed on the table. I'm still missing half of them. I don't know how they fit, but it's there. It's just it'll take a while.
It has begun.
Yes.
What is your greatest strength as a writer, and what is your greatest strength as an editor?
As a writer, I'd say that my prose is pretty on point. I feel confident in that, and so I don't have to worry so much about like the line by line stuff. As an editor, I'd say I'm really good at simplifying things for people. Often people spend way too long and way too many words on something that they don't need to. And as a CP, if we're close CPs, I'm honest. Like I'm always honest, but I can be a little bit more direct. So like again, Kent and I, and like Hannah and Victoria and I, we've all shared stuff for so long that you should see some of the notes Kent leaves me and I leave him, because sometimes you just need someone to call it like it is and be like, what are you trying to do here? Like you thought you were onto something, but you weren't. And so yeah, I guess. But I'm not like that with anybody. If someone asks to read or asks me to read something of theirs, I am not harsh. I'm honest, but I am not like.
I can attest to that. You've critiqued some of my work as well, and I love it. I love getting back all the red.
All the red lines, yes.
I love all the red. What is a tip you give writers as an editor? Oh, that's good.
Your readers are a lot smarter than you think they are. You do not need to over-explain. You do not need to give them more credit than some authors do. Just
you don't have to dumb it down.
Yeah, less is more, and they can fill in the gaps a lot better than you might think. And then dialogue tags, said and asked, are fine. Don't need to do every other dialogue tag is something different.
Dialogue tags is a big one, man. Like everybody mentions dialogue tags.
It really slows down the reading because as an editor, you're editing for the reader. So it's like ease of reading.
Have you tried? Oh, Jesus, Barry, you snuck that one in on me.
I have, and that's why I can say I don't like it. I don't. I love pineapple, just as is.
I wish I had known that he was doing that. Do you cook your Hawaiian pizza? I already did this.
Get out, Richard.
Okay, Richard. Colin says fabulous cover. I also agree that the cover slaps. Let's see. Such a great cover. Something about his ass. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Oh, that's where we are. Okay, I was banning him. Got it. We're caught up to that. Where are the questions at? Here we go. All right. I think we're caught up on all the questions. All right, folks. So let's see. We've got 5 minutes left. Let me go back and maybe touch on one or two more things here before we go. Okay. How many drafts did you go through on Tracker? I know that it was done for a while and sitting there, but when you were writing it, how many drafts did you go through?
I had my first draft, which some would call a zero draft, and then I rewrote it because I couldn't tell if I wanted to be third person omniscient or third person limited. So I just kind of like switched back and forth as I was writing it, full well knowing I was going to have to rewrite it just to see what worked. And then I was like, okay, it's third person limited. So then I went back, I rewrote it and clumped it up with, because when it's limited, you need to have like your characters a little bit longer and whatnot. Did that, gave it to my beta readers. and it was fairly clean at that point, minus some typos and junk, and got their notes back, rewrote it, and then sent it to my editor. And then I guess like that was the final draft, was me reading through it and going through the final edits. So Tracker 3.5, 4, which is not a lot. It was a shorter book and all of that. Every book is so different. So like the prequel that I'm working on, this is my third attempt at the same story, and I've already rewritten it twice. And it is significantly shorter, significantly more simple, and yet I'm struggling significantly more. That's the way the ball bounces sometimes.
Sometimes you got to beat these books into submission a little bit while you're writing them.
Yep.
Oh, we do have more questions. Here we go. Cat or dog or demon in a bottle?
I have a dog, although one might argue he's the latter.
What craft book or author would you recommend to someone starting in your genre?
I think everyone reads like Save a Cat Writes a Novel. That's like a really great place to start. I wouldn't recommend Stephen King's On Writing unless you just want to know more about Stephen King. It was interesting, but not as helpful as I wanted it to be. But there's a video. There's lots of videos on YouTube for short stories as well. But I would just say like the easiest one to follow is Save the Cat Writes a Novel, or Breakout, writing the Breakout novel. I forgot whose that's by. That one's really good, and it's really encouraging.
Right on. Nice. What do you do if you just wrote something long and you're mentally burned out? This might be good for you because since you do write so much flash and short stories, when you do work on the longer pieces, do you run into this? Do you like burn out on like writing the same thing for too long?
Yeah. Take a day or 2 days away and either write something else if you want, or just don't even think about it. There's nothing wrong with taking a break ever at all. I just personally can't spend more than 2 or 3 days away from writing, because then I just lose the habit of like sitting down and writing, because a lot of that is like muscle memory for me. So know your own strength and whatnot, but there's nothing wrong with taking a break ever at all. Ever.
Remember that, people. Rest is part of your health.
Yeah.
Mental
if you're
and
burned
physical
out, you're
health.
not going to be writing good stuff anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Someone missed your random live streams with Hannah. What would you want me to tell them about when you all might stream together again?
I might tell you that Hannah and I are working on doing that every week, every other week, and we are going to be starting this thing called Books We Think That Should Be Classics But Aren't Yet. And we're just going to talk about books that we think should be classics and or mandated literature, because we just want to talk about books. So it's happening. We're coming back.
Yeah.
Hannah and I just kind of like got burned out with YouTube for a little bit, and we had been trying.
I get that.
You should see our messages back and forth, like, okay, let's stream this week, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it, and then none of us like get it together, and so then the next week we're like, haha, we sucked, let's do it again, and then we don't, and eventually we got it back together.
Yeah. I mean, there's no rule that says that I have to do seasons to this show, but that's why I do it, so I don't burn out, so I can take a couple months off in between, gather myself and organize the next season as well, like work on what comes up next. So I'm not like working on everything week. Yeah, just it's a lot. Bethany Votaw, it has been a great pleasure having you with us. Please take the floor one last time. Let the folks know, remind them when Tracker's coming out. Your links are down below, all that good stuff. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Bethany Votaw. I write short story collections and mystery thrillers. Tracker is coming out November 27th, so less than a month away. And there are some fun new books on the horizon for 2022. I just can't say much right now. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. It was a great pleasure and honor to have you, Bethany. And I hope that you come back after Tracker. I'm sure you'll have the next thing coming up, and so maybe we'll make you a more recurring guest now, since we missed you in season 2. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for interacting with us today. I'm sorry that I didn't get to everybody's questions. I did see a few more in there. Time has run out on us, but thank you so much for coming. If you want to see more from Miss Bethany Votaw, we are going to record a podcast after this, and you can see the video version of that on Thursday on this channel. or you can listen to the audio versions that same day on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and anywhere else you need. Click on Bethany's stuff down below, sign up for her newsletter, all that good stuff. And please have a safe and wonderful Halloween. Enjoy yourselves. And I believe that we can sign off. Here we go. Bye.